Solid.
Okay, so think about this. You walk into pretty much any legal cannabis market today, right? And your nose just gets hit with these really bright, sharp, like zesty flavors.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking Tangie, Mimosa, Super Lemon Haze, that kind of thing. It's everywhere now.
Exactly. It feels dominant, almost standard. But if you were around in the, say, late 1990s, that just wasn't the flavor everyone was chasing. Not at all.
Right. It's easy to forget. For decades, the market was really dominated by, earthier notes, piney smells, sometimes those kind of chemical or diesel aromas.
So the big question is, where did this massive shift happen? This industry-wide obsession with lemon and orange. Where did it actually start?
Well, introducing a true, really powerful, clean lemon profile back then, that was pretty radical, actually. It wasn't just a subtle note.
Sounds like it stood out.
It really did. And it happened mainly because of, a single genetic discovery, a very specific, kind of localized moment that basically kicked off a global change.
And that's what we're diving into today. We're going to pull apart the notes, look at the timeline for the really specific high-stakes origin story of Lemon Skunk. Because this strain, it didn't just, win some trophies over in Europe. It fundamentally changed what people expected, flavor-wise, across the whole industry.
That's the core of it.
So our mission here is to trace that journey.
Yeah.
How did it go from this one single, really prized Vegas cut to becoming this, global genetic foundation?
Yeah, and the source material we've got lays out this really fascinating breeding story. It details the sort of handshake agreements, the, let's say, clandestine transport of genetics, and then the eventual public recognition, the sort of canonization. And it all centers around this one figure who became known pretty simply as the Lemon Man.
Okay, let's start there then. Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah.
Late 1990s. This is where the flavor story really begins, right?
Precisely, the genesis point.
And the central figure, as you said, is Chuck Blackton. He quickly gets this nickname, the Lemon Man, in his local, growing circles there.
Yeah, and his story is, it's really a testament to the power of phenotype hunting, just searching through plants.
Okay.
So Chuck Blackton, he isolates this incredibly citrus-heavy phenotype of pheno from a batch of seeds he was growing. Now, what's important to maybe clarify for you listening is where those seeds came from.
Yeah, what was the source?
Well, the notes say they were reportedly from just a generic pack labeled something like synthetic skunk.
Huh. Synthetic skunk. What does that actually mean in that context back then? Was that just like a generic term?
Not entirely just jargon. I mean, when you hear that term from that era, it often points back to the early, quite stable skunk lines being bred. Stuff often tracing back to Sensi seeds, maybe.
Okay, so foundational genetics.
Yeah, it implies a solid baseline, but maybe nothing super unique or specialized was expected from it. Which is what makes this story so incredible, right? Because within this batch of, commercially available, stable, but kind of generic seeds, Chuck Blackton finds this total outlier, an extreme one.
Wow. And that outlier becomes known as the Vegas Lemon Cut.
That's the one. And our sources are pretty clear. It was instantly prized, locally, not just because it smelled nice, but it combined that incredibly sharp, true lemon terpene profile, which was rare then, very rare.
With serious potency. It wasn't just flavor, it was the whole package.
And what's fascinating there is just how quickly something genuinely better can set a new standard. Finding that one specific cut, that phenotype, it was everything. Growers know this, right? You can breed for certain traits, but sometimes, just sometimes, one plant expresses something totally unique, something stable and dramatic. And this specific local discovery by just one, curious grower, it set the stage for a whole revolution.
It proved the market was ready, maybe hungry, for these bright, less traditional flavors.
Exactly. And this is where the story makes that jump, doesn't it? From being this local Vegas legend to becoming an international thing.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this. How does this Vegas garage favorite go global?
Okay, so by around 2004, 2005, the Vegas Lemon Cut was still kind of a well-kept secret, but, word gets around, its reputation traveled.
And Chuck Blackton starts traveling.
Yeah, he starts going back and forth pretty consistently between Las Vegas and Amsterdam, which you got to remember at that time, Amsterdam was still kind of the absolute epicenter for advanced breeding, the international genetics trade.
Okay, but moving that kind of asset, a unique plant clone, you can't just seed it easily. How do you get that across borders? That seems like a huge risk.
It was a huge risk.
Yeah.
And that's maybe the most high-stakes moment in the whole story. The source materials, they actually detail this. On one trip, Chuck Blackton literally hands a pair of scissors to the guys at DNA Genetics.
Wow.
And just lets them take cuttings right there, directly from the Vegas lemon mother plant.
Draw away.
Yeah, and they apparently carried these incredibly valuable little clippings back to Amsterdam in, get this, Ziploc bags.
Wait, seriously, Ziploc bags. For the genetic mother of what becomes like a multi-million-dollar global strain, that sounds incredibly risky. Was that normal, that kind of informal transfer for something so valuable?
Well, normal is maybe relative, but it was definitely common enough in that era. You know, it was more trust-based, this genetic exchange. But yeah, it speaks volumes about how valuable they knew that cut was.
They had to have.
They knew they had to have it. They were willing to take that logistical gamble. It wasn't just about sharing. It was about securing the absolute key ingredient for, like, the next wave of breeding.
Okay, securing the key ingredient, I get that. But turning a single clone, a cut, into something you can sell globally, something stable.
Oh.
You need seeds for that, right? That requires another step.
Precisely. Yeah, a clone gives you that exact copy of the mother, sure. But to make seeds that growers everywhere could buy and, you know, reliably grow, they needed to cross it with a stable male plant.
Okay.
And this is where that crucial partnership comes in, with Eddie from Flying Dutchman.
Okay. So what did Eddie bring to this collaboration?
Eddie provided the genetic anchor, basically. A strong, pure skunk male. And this was vital. You got this intensely flavorful, potent Vegas lemon cut. That's the female. But you need that male to bring in the stability, the structure, maybe the yield that those classic skunk lines were famous for. It's kind of the perfect genetic matchup. You know, flavor novelty meets reliable breeding stability.
So crossing the Vegas lemon female with that pure skunk male, that's the official lemon skunk seed line we know today.
That's the one. And it was like classic old school genetic sharing. Really cool. They made the seeds. They split that first run 50-50. But then DNA genetics handled the ongoing production and distribution.
Okay.
And that's what really cemented the strain's international potential. If you connect it to the bigger picture, that specific pairing defined the strain. That was the moment the Vegas discovery got engineered for, you know, global release.
Okay, and here's where it gets really interesting for me. Because having great genetics is one thing, but you need validation, right?
Yeah.
Especially in that super competitive European scene back then. So once DNA Genetics introduced this new lemon skunk seed line, they didn't just, like, put it out there. They really leaned into the story. They made sure to bring Chuck Blackton, the original guy, on stage at the competitions. Called him the Lemon Man.
Which was smart, right? Smart branding. It connects the strain's unique quality directly back to the person who found it. And yeah, the awards started rolling in almost immediately. Lemon Skunk wasn't just another good strain, it was like revolutionary. It set a whole new standard for flavor.
And the wins were pretty major, weren't they? Across different types of grows, too.
Oh yeah, definitely significant. They nabbed first place for outdoor growing at the 2007 Highlife Cup. That says a lot about its vigor, its yield potential.
Okay. Then the very next year, 2008, boom. First place, indoor hydro at Spannabis. Winning across different methods like that. It showed the strain was versatile, stable, and just consistently excellent. So these cups, these trophies, they were like the official stamp of approval in the breeding world.
Pretty much.
But maybe the ultimate validation, the real canonization, came the year after that, back in the U.S., actually. By 2009, High Times magazine recognized its huge global impact, naming Lemon Skunk one of their top 10 strains of the year.
Yeah, and that High Times recognition, that was absolutely key. It basically cemented Lemon Skunk officially as the spark, the thing that really ignited the whole citrus terpene wave that came after.
Right. Before this, citrus was maybe just an occasional note you'd find.
Exactly, an occasional note. After Lemon Skunk hit big, it became a whole flavor category that people actively looked for. The industry, the consumers, they had a new expectation for flavor. It's such a cool story arc. This local Vegas discovery travels the world, gets international fame, and then Chuck Blackton kind of completes the circle, right? He comes back home, effectively.
He does. By December 2009, he opens Verde Wellness, which later became Verde Natural in Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
So he's bringing his recognized expertise, and you assume his original genetics, back into the brand new licensed U.S. market that was just starting to emerge.
Wow, and people knew his connection. Oh yeah, it's a perfect example of provenance mattering. The source material we looked at mentions that Denver's Westward paper profiled him specifically as the breeder behind Lemon Skunk. They cited his work in the Netherlands, his cup record. He went pretty smoothly from being this, you know, underground breeder to a celebrated expert in the new legal world.
Okay, let's talk about the legacy then, the ripple effect. Because Lemon Skunk's impact it feels much bigger than just its own wins, right?
Yeah.
That original Vegas lemon cut kept being used.
Oh, absolutely. It became a foundational piece for so many other major citrus strains that followed.
Like what? What came next?
Well, the most famous immediate spin-off was probably Super Lemon Haze. That was created via greenhouse seeds, with Arjun leading that project.
Okay, greenhouse seeds.
And by using that lemon skunk lineage, they basically poured fuel on the fire, driving an even bigger surge in these citrus-forward genetics throughout the early 2010s. The family tree for modern citrus cannabis, it really starts right there. It just radiates out.
And you can draw a direct line from that to the next generation of mega hits, the stuff dominating shelves right now, like Tangie and Mimosa.
You absolutely can. The demand, the appetite for bright, sweet, almost fruity cannabis was permanently established by Lemon Skunk and its descendants.
But, with that kind of massive global success, different people involved, genetics getting shared, confusion seems almost inevitable, doesn't it?
It really
does. And this brings up a super important question, especially for anyone trying to trace genetics today. How do you know what's what when names get duplicated?
Okay, this is the tricky part we need to unpack. Because the name Lemon Skunk got so successful, so desirable, that other breeders started using it too, and that caused some real identity problems for a long time.
Exactly right. So while the original cup-winning Lemon Skunk was defined by that Vegas lemon cut crossed with the pure skunk male, Greenhouse Seeds, the same guys who did Super Lemon Haze, they also released a product they called Lemon Skunk.
Okay, but was it the same thing? No, and this is crucial. That second strain, the greenhouse one, also called Lemon Skunk, it was an entirely different genetic cross. It was skunk crossed with citral.
Skunky citral.
Yeah.
Okay, and that cross, it had absolutely nothing to do with the flavor-defining Vegas mother cut that Chuck Blackton found.
Correct. Explicitly unrelated to that Vegas mother lineage. And that difference is huge genetically and in terms of flavor.
How so?
Well, the Vegas lineage, it had this really high level of limon, obviously, but also these unique secondary terpenes that gave it that incredibly sharp, almost pungent, authentic lemon flavor, the skunk acitral version. It was pleasant, sure, often citrusy, but it produced a different profile. Often softer, maybe less complex, less lemon, more generic citrus.
So the shared name just created massive confusion in the market for years.
Persistent, long-lasting confusion.
Yeah.
You had consumers expecting that award-winning, really sharp, specific flavor from the Vegas line, but they might often get the citral cross instead, just because it had the same name on the jar.
Which highlights just how important genetic provenance is, right? Knowing the exact parents, knowing the specific breeder involved. It's literally the difference between buying the original, the revolutionary flavor, and maybe buying a decent imitation that just happens to share the name.
It's a constant challenge, honestly, in this global, super fast-growing industry where standardization is still, catching up. That original Vegas lineage, it doesn't just hold the key to the flavor itself, it holds the key to the strain's identity. And the bar had been set so high by that Vegas cut, that flavor expectation, that any deviation, even under the same popular name, often led to disappointment for people.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. Okay, so just to wrap up this incredible journey for you listening. The history of modern cannabis flavor, arguably, starts with one guy, Chuck Blackton, and kind of a lucky find in a Las Vegas garage.
Right.
That specific cut gets carefully, maybe riskily, taken Ziploc bags over to Amsterdam. He gets successfully crossbred, used to win major European awards, and eventually establishes itself back in the U.S. and licensed Colorado shops. What a ride.
It really is. So what does all this mean for, the grower or the consumer today?
Well, Lemon Skunk's story is just the clearest possible case study. It shows how one unique, single phenotype, that needle in a haystack discovery, can be amplified through careful breeding, through strategic sharing, and can literally define a whole new flavor movement in, modern agriculture, really.
Yeah.
The expectations we all have now for fruit-forward cannabis, they were permanently changed by this story.
And maybe the most fascinating little detail is thinking back to where it started. Our sources point back to that original material being just a generic pack of synthetic skunk seeds.
Yeah.
It kind of makes you reconsider where real breakthroughs actually come from, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. I mean, if one specific industry-altering phenotype, the one responsible for launching a global flavor revolution, can be pulled from just a seemingly generic, mass-produced seed pack, well, it raises a pretty provocative thought for you to maybe chew on.
Okay, what's that? What percentage of true game-changing innovation actually starts not from, these highly controlled, multi-million-dollar R&D labs, but simply from the combination of pure lucky happenstance and the sharp eye of just a dedicated, curious grower paying close attention?
That is definitely something to mull over until our next deep dive.